Sure, big AI wants to build approximately 1 million more data centers, and they need an infinite amount of power to do that. But I've been assured that it's totally fine. And actually, you shouldn't ask about how they're going to do that, because AI is the future. Well, you'll never believe where this story goes next.
The war against the machines.
Ugh. From Battleborn Progress, this is Battleborn Bytes. My name is Jacob. Let's talk about AI and the environment. When you talk about AI, there's almost always too much to talk about at any one time. I guess that's what happens when you build a plagiarism machine that vaguely situationally increases productivity at the expense of human sanity, interpersonal relationships, and critical thinking ability. As the French say, c'est la vie. But today, we have to talk about AI and the environment, because absent a Skynet-style apocalypse or getting turned into goo for the Matrix, the raw resource impact of these AI models may be the widest-reaching consequence of using the technology at all. That's because as much as AI is about what happens on the computer, it's about what goes into making the computer function in the first place. First, let's look at power. For starters, it's often difficult to know exactly how much energy a single data center is using because the corporations building them often don't want to say. This is for obvious reasons. 19 permits across 10 states, including 12 held by Google, are either fully or partially redacted to protect trade secrets. But we do know that, in general, data center power consumption is, in a word, pretty big. I suppose that's 2 words, but we're moving on. A study from the University of Michigan found a single data center can use something like 2 megawatt hours of power on average, enough to power 2,000 homes. At the start of the consumer AI boom in 2023, these data centers were using about 4% of US electricity, though that could triple by 2028. There's also the fact that AI chips are just hungrier power-wise than normal data center processors. A Deloitte analysis found that in 2024, AI power centers were using 4 gigawatts to everyone else's 33. By 2035, if the AI companies get their way, that could be 123 gigawatts of AI-specific power consumption. That scale could mean AI data centers could use more power than entire cities. All of that power has to come from somewhere, and what the data show is that consumers are bearing at least some of the increase. Because there is an increase. An investigation from Bloomberg found wholesale electricity costs jumped as much as 267% over the last 5 years, while consumer electricity prices continued to rise by nearly 7% last year, nearly double the overall rate of inflation. It's all so bad for AI companies that they've already jumped in to get ahead of the problem. Anthropic, maker of the Claude AI model, has already pledged to pay for 100% of the grid updates needed for their data centers, plus front the costs for new power generation to avoid passing more cost to consumers. Not to be outdone, Meta, Amazon, and Google have all pledged to triple the world's nuclear output in the next 25 years. One problem, though, it will probably take that long just to get much nuclear generation online in the first place, considering how controversial nuclear tends to be. Ask me, a Nevadan, how I know. Still, it's a savvy move to make at a time when consumers are increasingly skeptical that all the investment is actually worth it, and any large increase in power bills would make them extra skeptical. But words are one thing, and deeds are another, and these players are just one among a sea that involves some of the largest corporations on Earth. The carbon-neutral data center does not exist in the here and now, and it could take years or even decades to create the infrastructure required for that in the first place. In the meantime, coal and natural gas are filling the gaps. The long-term sustainability of AI power generation is a nationwide problem that needs more than empty promises from the companies causing the problem. It may need actual serious policymaking from local, state, and federal regulators. But put a pin in that one, because we're going to come back to that. Now, though, let's talk about water. This one's not necessarily intuitive. At scale, data centers use water cooling loops to keep chips within operating temperatures. Makes sense. Adding more chips means adding more water. Adding more data centers means more chips. You get the idea. Now, again, how transparent AI companies are about water usage varies, but Google has actually published plenty, and therefore we know Google has among the thirstiest data centers. In 2023, including non-AI data centers, Google was using 6.4 billion gallons of water. If you were to put all that in a glass, it would be a very large glass. So to be clear, that pales in comparison to agriculture and especially livestock feed. In 2023, the same year as that Google report, the New York Times analyzed Colorado River water usage and found about 1 trillion gallons used for livestock feed. I will save my takes on red meat consumption for another video. And another 448 billion gallons used for all other crops. In that context, 6.4 billion gallons is a drop in the bucket. But put another way, it's still 6.4 billion gallons of water. Objectively, quite a lot of water. Just because it's not more water than agriculture doesn't mean that data centers don't use water or that water won't become problematic in the long term. Because ultimately, the water's gotta come from somewhere. People forget this. You gotta get the water from somewhere. And it can't be the ocean. It's too salty. It's too salty. But don't take my word for it. Take the case of the Dalles, Oregon. I'm 90% sure I'm saying that right. In 2012, Google data centers used about 12% of the town's water supply. By 2024, Google used a third of the water, with plans to build another data center. This is the difference between 104 million gallons in 2012 and 434 million gallons today. Now, the Dalles is looking to expand its water reservoir by 50%. An interesting coincidence that I'm sure has nothing to do with anything. They're just doing that. And see, this is the real conundrum. It's not that data centers use a lot of water in the abstract. It's that data centers have to exist in a particular space at a particular time. And whether or not that place has the water to serve that data center is a specific question. And whether or not some of these places have the water security in the long term to serve these data centers is anyone's guess when the expansion of the data centers is beyond any comprehensible scope. In the Southwest, the Colorado River has been suffering from years of drought and water misuse, driven largely by agricultural use in California and authorized by a century-old legal compact that's become a political lightning rod. But the drought is the drought. Right now, horrifically bad snowfall in the Rocky Mountains is setting up another snow drought for the Colorado River Basin this year, not just creating the conditions for a dry spring, but setting the table for more and more water cuts aiming to protect a dwindling water supply. That, by the way, feeds millions of people. As someone who can look at Lake Mead from time to time, it distresses me. And finally, then, we have to talk about politics. Perhaps more than any other issue, AI has become an existential quest of not just the Silicon Valley tech giants, but of entire national political machines. In the minds of a military, AI advancement promises new frontiers of drone swarms or mass cyber warfare. For technocrats, it's an opportunity to reshape the bones of the entire bureaucracy, for good or for ill, depending on your point of view. And for the most cynical of electeds, it's an opportunity to juice campaign fundraising numbers with an impossibly wealthy collection of corporations and billionaires who just want the government to go away. This is to say nothing of the geopolitics of the actual resources involved. Increased electrification requires copper, which by and large is globally controlled by China. Computer chips require silicon. Batteries require lithium. So on and so forth. Each of these rare earth minerals has created a global scramble for strategic stockpiles looking to crack monopolies held by some such nation or another. Last one to build a stockpile gets subjugated by our new AI overlords. Yay.
And I, for one, welcome our new insect overlords.
And this isn't related to anything really, but the U.S. rare earth stockpile is going to be at the Army Depot in Hawthorne, Nevada, which proves really that there's always a Nevada connection. There's also the U.S. keeps taking out equity stakes in key rare earth mineral companies, key to the AI race. That will probably require a separate video explaining the U.S. government taking out equity stakes in private companies. Fun. Now, these are resource deficiencies that corporations are more than happy to take advantage of, by the way. As an example, there are just 3 companies in the entire world that produce most of the computer memory chips. All 3 have pivoted their manufacturing pipelines to prioritize AI customers, creating a RAM crunch that could stretch into 2027 at the earliest. And in the meantime, spike the cost of everything that needs RAM, which it turns out is a lot of stuff. Pour one out for anyone who wanted to buy a Steam Deck. Too bad. You should have bought one 2 years ago. Of course, at the same time, the Trump White House issued an executive order last year aimed at stopping state and local jurisdictions from standing up their own AI regulations. Can an executive order do that? No, not really. Is that stopping the Trump administration? No, not really. Take, for an example, the issue of AI in insurance. Red and blue states alike have worried that health insurers would use AI to deny claims writ large through the force of an algorithmic black box, a new and exciting layer to the existing black box of health insurance claims. Now, the question is whether the administration attempts to sue states trying to stop those insurance companies in the first place. And right now, we don't know. But why wouldn't the Trump administration sue? After all, AI companies and tech companies as a group have been among the biggest boosters of Trump 2.0, with top billionaires from Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and Tim Cook becoming the faces of corporate cooperation with Trump. Look no further than the premiere of the Melania documentary, which I suppose speaks for itself. Documentary bought by Amazon, by the way, bought and distributed by Amazon. Curious. But for a punctuation mark, OpenAI President Greg Brockman gave Trump's super PAC $25 million last year, making him and his wife one of Trump's biggest donors, period. While they were at it, they gave another $25 million to an AI super PAC aimed at opposing politicians that jeopardize Americans' ability to benefit from AI. And don't think this amount of money won't influence policy. Cryptocurrency companies, despite being built as a Jenga tower of increasingly corrupt rug pulls, scams, and grifts, spent big on politicians who promised to deregulate the crypto industry in 2024, especially after the SEC spent years aggressively pursuing alleged bad actors in cryptocurrency. Weird how that works. Now we have a crypto industry that got exactly what they wanted. Under new SEC Chair Paul Atkins, crypto companies have been handed a new blank slate. The SEC has dropped something like 60% of the legal cases against crypto firms since Trump took office, including a high-profile case against the Winklevoss twins in January. Yes, the ones from acclaimed David Fincher film, The Social Network. I don't know much more about them than that. And I'm sure it comes as a shock that the Venn diagram of crypto companies that have had their cases dropped and crypto companies that have donated to the Trump campaign are almost a circle. So maybe it's a cautionary tale. Maybe, just maybe, somebody needs to grab the reins before it's too late. But that does it for today's episode. If you like the show, be sure to like or subscribe so you're the first to know when we upload a new episode. Until then, for Battleborn Progress, this has been Battleborn Bites. We'll see you next week.